Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on emotional labor. Ooh.
Interesting. That invisible glue that kind of keeps relationships together.
Yeah.
All about managing emotions, making sure things are harmonious.
Hmm.
But sometimes it feels like one partner's putting in way more effort than the other.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We're using this podcast episode outline
Okay.
to explore, is emotional labor fairly shared? Or if one person ends up carrying a heavier load?
Right.
So before we get ahead of ourselves, let's just make sure we're on the same page about what emotional labor actually is.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your take on this.
Well, I think it's really interesting because
Yeah.
it's more than just being nice or thoughtful.
Right.
Like imagine this.
Okay.
You're the one who always remembers birthdays,
Oh, yeah.
smooths over family tensions, makes sure everyone feels heard after a tough day.
Yeah,
That's emotional labor in action.
that's so true.
Um,
It's the often unspoken work that keeps the emotional engine of a relationship running smoothly.
it is.
But here's the catch.
Okay.
It often happens behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and that's where things can get tricky.
It's so true. And it's funny because I was just thinking about this the other day,
Oh, yeah.
about how I always seem to be the one who plans our get-togethers with friends
Yeah.
or remembers to send thank you notes.
Right.
And it's not that my partner doesn't care.
Right.
It's just that it's not really on their radar in the same way.
Yeah, it's just not top of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where that idea of an unequal burden comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And research backs this up, too.
Yeah.
Studies show that even in relationships that seem pretty equal on the surface,
Yeah.
women often end up doing more of the emotional heavy lifting.
It's true.
Think about things like organizing social events, offering a listening ear to family members who are going through a tough time,
Yeah.
or even just setting the emotional tone of the relationship. It often falls more on women.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you put it that way, it really does make you stop and think.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet a lot of people listening have noticed similar patterns in their own life. I'm starting to see it everywhere now.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about individual choices, right?
Right.
The outline we're looking at here points to a deeper issue, societal conditioning.
Yeah.
Even when we consciously try to break free from those traditional roles, those ingrained expectations about who does what,
It's true.
they can really stick with us.
Yeah. They're hard to shake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens when this imbalance just keeps going?
Yeah.
The outline doesn't sugarcoat the consequences, and frankly, it gets pretty real.
Yeah, it does.
I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay. Well, you know how you were saying you feel like you're always the one planning things and remembering important dates? Imagine that feeling, but magnified tenfold.
Oh, wow.
The outline calls this emotional burnout. And it's not just about feeling tired.
Right.
It's this deep sense of exhaustion,
Yeah.
resentment. Like you're constantly giving, but you're not really getting much back in return.
Oh, that hits close to home.
Yeah.
You know, I remember this one time.
Yeah.
I was feeling totally overwhelmed, and I was trying to talk to my partner about it. And they just didn't get it.
Oh, no.
They were like, but you're so good at all this stuff.
Right.
Why are you complaining?
Exactly.
Like, they couldn't see how much mental and emotional energy I was putting into everything.
Exactly. And that feeling of not being seen or heard,
Yeah.
that's a classic sign of emotional burnout.
Really?
The outline gives some really vivid examples of how this can play out in relationships.
Okay.
Communication breakdowns, feeling emotionally withdrawn,
Yeah.
constantly feeling like your needs are being overlooked.
Yeah.
It can create this invisible wall between partners.
So it's not just about one person feeling burnt out. It
Right.
affects the whole dynamic. Wow.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The outline actually draws a parallel between emotional burnout
Yeah.
and something called compassion fatigue,
Okay.
which is often experienced by healthcare workers and caregivers.
Oh, interesting.
It's that feeling of being emotionally drained from constantly caring for others.
Right.
And when you think about it,
Yeah.
that's exactly what can happen in a relationship where one partner is carrying the majority of the emotional labor.
Wow. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah,
It's a pretty powerful connection.
it is.
But the good news is
Yeah.
the outline doesn't leave us hanging in a state of despair.
No, it doesn't.
It actually shifts gears to talk about finding balance,
Absolutely.
which is what we all want.
Exactly. We all want that.
Right.
And it all starts with recognizing that emotional labor is real work.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
It's not something that should automatically fall on one person's shoulders
Right.
or something to be taken for granted.
It's like we need to rewrite the script.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
But how do we actually do that?
Yeah. How do we do that?
The outline talks about open communication.
Right.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. What does that look like?
Think of it as a two-way street.
Okay.
It's about being honest with yourself and your partner
Yeah.
about your emotional needs and expectations. And it's not a one-time conversation.
Right.
It's an ongoing dialogue.
So instead of bottling things up until I reach a breaking point,
Exactly.
I need to speak up early and often.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but I think a lot of us, myself included,
Yeah,
could be better at that.
absolutely. And it's not just about airing grievances.
Okay.
It's also about expressing appreciation.
Oh.
When your partner does something that lightens your emotional load, acknowledge it.
Oh.
A simple thank you for handling that,
Yeah.
really helped me out,
Yeah.
can go a long way.
Okay, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
But what about those situations where it feels like we're just speaking different languages? Like, how do you get someone to see emotional labor if they've never really had to think about it before?
That's where those real-life examples from the outline come in handy.
Okay.
Remember Emily and Mark?
Yeah.
They were struggling with this very issue.
Okay.
Emily felt overwhelmed,
Uh-huh.
while her partner didn't understand why she was making a big deal out of things.
Right.
But they had a breakthrough when Emily started pointing out specific examples.
Oh.
Like, hey, I noticed you never seem to remember to call your mom on her birthday.
Okay.
Could you try to make more of an effort with that?
Got it.
It was about making the invisible visible.
Ah, so it's about getting specific and pointing out those everyday moments where emotional labor is happening.
Exactly.
I see.
Instead of just saying, you never help me out,
Right.
you say, hey, it would really help if you could take the lead on planning this event.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's really inspiring is that Emily and Mark didn't stop there. They actually started making a conscious effort to take turns initiating those difficult conversations
Okay.
or dealing with challenging family members.
Right.
It was about sharing the emotional load in a way that felt fair to both of them.
That's so encouraging.
It is.
It shows that it is possible to create a more balanced dynamic.
It is possible.
But I'm curious, were there any other strategies that they used that we can learn from?
Yeah,
The outline hints at some additional tips, right?
it does.
Yeah.
One of the most important things is to remember that emotional labor isn't always about grand gestures
Okay.
or dramatic declarations.
Right.
Sometimes it's about those small acts of care and consideration that often go unnoticed.
Yeah.
Like making sure your partner has time and space to process their emotions
Okay.
without feeling like they have to put on a brave face
Right.
or simply taking on extra tasks around the house
Yeah.
to ease their burden.
You know, it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
Just the other day, my partner was having a rough day at work. And instead of trying to fix the situation,
Yeah.
I just sat with them and listened.
Oh, wow.
And afterward, they told me how much they appreciated that I didn't try to force them to cheer up.
Oh.
It made me realize how powerful those simple acts of presence can be.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is just hold space for your partner's emotions
Right.
without judgment
Yeah.
or the need to offer solutions.
Okay, so we've talked about open communication, making the invisible visible, and those small acts of care.
Right.
Anything else we should keep in mind as we're striving for this balance?
This one's important.
Okay.
The outline reminds us that setting boundaries is crucial. It's about being honest with yourself and your partner
Yeah.
about your capacity
Uh-huh.
and communicating your needs clearly
Right.
so you don't end up feeling resentful or depleted.
Ooh, boundaries.
Yeah.
That's a word we hear a lot these days.
We do.
But it's so important in this context.
It's essential.
Like, it's okay to say, yeah.
I can't handle planning another family vacation right now. Can we take turns?
Exactly. And it's not selfish to prioritize your own well-being.
Right.
In fact, it's essential for creating a sustainable and healthy relationship.
So true.
Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And finally, the outline mentions something that I think is really important to acknowledge.
Okay.
Seeking professional support.
Yes.
It's a reminder that if you're finding it difficult to navigate these issues on your own, it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
A therapist can provide a safe and neutral space to explore these dynamics
Yeah.
and develop effective communication strategies.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's a sign of strength, not weakness, to seek support when you need it.
I agree.
And remember, you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah.
Many couples struggle with finding balance when it comes to emotional labor.
Wow. This has been really eye-opening. We've
Yeah.
covered a lot of ground today, from defining emotional labor to recognizing burnout.
And exploring ways to create a more balanced dynamic.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
So what stands out to you as the biggest takeaway?
For me, it's that emotional labor is not just some fluffy concept.
Yeah,
Like, it's real work.
it is.
It has real consequences, especially when it's not evenly distributed.
Totally.
But what's encouraging is we're not powerless
Yeah.
to change the script
Right.
with awareness,
Mm-hmm.
open communication,
Uh-huh.
a commitment to shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Relationships
Yeah.
can evolve into something that's truly equitable and fulfilling.
I totally agree. It's like we're shining a light on something that's always been there,
Yeah,
but often goes unnoticed.
right.
And by bringing it into the open, we can start to shift those deeply ingrained patterns and expectations.
Absolutely.
And what's really exciting is it's not just about avoiding burnout.
Right.
It's about creating a deeper level of connection and intimacy.
Exactly. When both partners feel seen, heard, and appreciated for the emotional work they do, it strengthens the foundation of the relationship,
Totally.
creates this beautiful cycle of mutual care and support.
So if you could leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question,
Oh, a question.
what would it be?
Okay, well, throughout this whole deep dive, we've talked about how societal norms
Yeah,
and traditional gender roles can influence the division of emotional labor.
it's true.
So my question is this:
Okay.
if we truly embrace the value of emotional labor
Yeah.
and strive for more balanced partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
how might that impact those deeply ingrained societal expectations?
Oh.
Like, could it lead to a shift in how we view traditional relationship roles?
That's a great question. It makes you think, right?
Yeah.
If we acknowledge that taking care of the emotional well-being of a relationship
Mm.
is just as important as bringing home a paycheck or keeping the house clean,
Yeah.
it challenges those traditional notions of what it means to be a good partner
Right.
or
Yeah.
parent.
Exactly. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities
Wow.
for how we define and create relationships
Yeah.
that are truly authentic, equitable, and fulfilling for everyone involved.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive.
Of course.
It's been incredible.
My pleasure.
That's a wrap on today's show.
Awesome.
We hope you walk away with some fresh perspectives and a renewed sense of empowerment to create those relationships you truly desire.
Yes.
Until next time, keep diving deep.